So this video is going to be a quick overview of something cool you can do to emulate a first-person camera, but it's also going to be a quick behind the scenes for my last video, where I took Loona from Hell of a Boss and made a quick Five Nights at Freddy's style animation based on her. So if you didn't already know, you can press Shift F to look around the viewport with your standard WAS controls. Once you have a ground plane, you can also hit Tab to toggle gravity and move around like you would in a first-person shooter. But what you also might not have known is that you can press End into the sidebar, go to the View tab, and click the checkbox that says Camera to View. This will make the camera follow you once you enter camera view, which is 0 on the number pad by default. Now here's the crazy part. If you press the auto keying button in the timeline, then press Alt-A to start the playback, then press Shift F plus Tab to toggle gravity, you can actually record yourself walking around. Then when you're done, you can look at yourself looking around at the scene you've created, and you can add fancy lighting and render it out, and it looks like an actual video game. And since the movement is already pre-recorded, you can theoretically render the scene with graphics that are way fancier than your typical video game. Actually, this is probably a bad time to say this since Unreal Engine 5 just came out and more is becoming possible with real-time rendering technology, but it's cool nonetheless. And here's the part where I do a quick behind-the-scenes recap of how I made this Hell of a Boss FNAF crossover animation thingy. For starters, back in November 2020, I decided it would be cool if I could take this super cool wolf girl and make her look as Zootopia as possible, with fully rendered fur and everything. And I actually got pretty close, but unfortunately when it came time to render one of the animations that I did with her, it took way too long. So I ended up having to use Eevee, which is Blender's real-time renderer, instead of Cycles, which is based around ray tracing. It still looked pretty good though, and my animations based on Loona still got mildly decent views, I guess. But with animatronic Loona, all I really did was take my existing Loona model, remove all the fur, replace her hair with 3D curve objects, and change all the materials to be shiny and metallic, as well as adding metal joints to some parts. Mostly just her arms, since those are pretty much the only prominent invisible joints on the entire model. And pro tip, when animating a robot, especially a robot in a fake video game where the camera's moving around, you do not have to be super good at animating. Robots are janky, video games are janky, no one will notice if you slack off a little. I literally didn't even animate the lip sync for her line here.
I need to blow off some f***ing steam!
I actually forgot to do that, but it doesn't even matter. I watched it back and I kind of didn't care enough to go back and re-render everything. So that's the moral of this video. You can use Blender in cool and exciting ways, and as long as you're somewhat above average with your skills, people won't notice your tiny little f***ups because they'll be too busy being impressed that you were able to do any of this cool 3D stuff to begin with. And this isn't even my main style of content. I do animatics and edits. This is just something I happen to be kind of good at. Okay, bye. Remember to stay cute.